All right, I think I'm good, guys. So as you can see, the title of this live is, the death of democracy in Sierra Leone, and I'm gonna try for as much as I have time to, go through these series and break it down for not only our brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone, but across the world, across Africa, because I'm a big proponent of democracy, right? And in Africa, we are promoting democracy because it's better for our people to be able to participate, um, be able to make choices and make decisions for the leaders that are going to be governing them, as opposed to a military regime or coup d'etats across West Africa or across Africa as a whole. We've seen the rise of what is happening in Mali. We see what's happening in Niger, Burkina Faso, and the people are welcoming the military back because what has happened is over the years, the democratic leaders have failed their people through constitutional coups. People go into elections to vote and they're not able to vote. So what I want to do, as you can see on the screen, is Dr. Samora Kamara is the flag bearer of the APC. So what I want to do is just give you guys a quick look at what has been going on, in Sierra Leone prior to the elections and up until now, where we've seen that the people went out to vote and their votes were not counted. I mean, we don't even have a result from the elections, and this is clear because it's been stated by the American ambassador to Sierra Leone, and that is why we're calling on America and of the international partners, which we should not be doing, because when you look at America, America is taking care of itself because America has institutions, but unfortunately, Africa has not been able to build institutions that could stand the test of times to protect democracies in our various countries where we're from, and that is very, very sad. That's very sad. But you have people like myself who are going to be, the gate man for democracies across Africa. And we're going to continue to preach for proper democracy in Africa. So let me give you guys a backdrop real quick before we go to what is actually happening now in Sierra Leone. For 5 years in 2018, when the current president, Julius Maada came to power, I mean, this guy has done nothing but destroy every democratic institution in Sierra Leone that should protect democracy. And the last one that survived was the Auditor General's office. And even that, it was able to finally, using corrupt elements within the judiciary and the parliament of Sierra Leone, to sack the Auditor General. And she's been kicked out of her office. Unfortunately, this has definitely rendered Sierra Leone useless in the international community and, across the world. Serious investors in serious business, individuals or entities, would not come to Sierra Leone to do business because, I mean, Intosai, the international organization responsible for auditors internationally, they've made it clear that they wouldn't advise, their members to, take the position of Auditor General in Sierra Leone because they know Sierra Leone is backsliding. That's how bad that is. But we've had a parliament where the leader of the opposition at the time, Cherno Majuba, commonly called Cherikoko, amongst the people of Sierra Leone, we saw in Liberia how strong opposition stopped, any discrepancy or any, anti-democratic activities that, former President Weah or his supporters might have wanted to engage in. But we saw because of strong opposition voices, they were able to protect democracy. And today, Liberia has moved on. They had a democratic elections. There's been no fights, no quabbles. I mean, they're having their issues, but as far as the elections is concerned, everything was smooth. And, the president, handed over power peacefully, and Liberians have moved on. That was the same expectation we had in Sierra Leone. But unfortunately, that did not work. It did not work because the opposition were in bed with the ruling government. And we saw that firsthand because in serious oppositions, you would see how the positions these guys would take. When governments are doing the wrong things, opposition leaders would be very boisterous, very vociferous, right? They'll come out and take interviews internationally. They'll call protests. They'll bring their people out, and but in Sierra Leone, that was not the case the whole time. And so we saw how the president continuously, just kind of practice absolute nepotism across the board. In every ministry, department, and agency, we're staffed with, abusing tribal hegemony. If you go to some of these government institutions, it's one tribe dominance. We saw it across the country. They were sacking people by their last names. If your name is from the northern part of the country or from the western part of the country, your chances of having a job was like second to slim. It was just not there. And we've seen over the years the skyrocketing of goods and services. And they'll tell you, oh, it's inflation across the world. Everything is expensive. But this is in Sierra Leone. The president told us that there's nothing he could do. There is no other country in the world, America or European countries, where democracy is practiced, civilized democracy, where a president would come out and say such words like, there is nothing I can do. And that president survives a day. So we've seen that over the eroding of democratic principles, the abuse, human rights abuses. You can check the State Department's reports that comes out every year about Sierra Leone since 2018 all the way through, and you will see how the prisons are overcrowded and all of that, staffed, packed with, because that's the right word I could use, packed with opposition people, innocent supporters that are just supporting their political parties. They are locked up in prisons across Sierra Leone. If you speak up, the government does not like that. You're locked up. You're arrested. If you're lucky, you're locked up. If you're not, you're killed. We've seen it over and over again. It has happened, and that is why, of course, the ICC has these cases documented, and I'm sure they're working on making sure that they prosecute the president. So we've come a long way since 2018. Democracy has backslided. And that is why we continue to call on America and call on President Joe Biden, who has made it very clear over the years that, he's ready to stand with those voices that are willing to stand and protect democracy. And that is what I've stood for. And a couple of my friends, Cashbox, who is called Alfred, given the fact that I'm doing a professional live here. He's based in the United Kingdom. And a brother of ours who's been arrested today for visiting Sierra Leone, Amadou Koita, who was a former military officer, but stayed in the United Kingdom, but went back home to visit his family members. And all of a sudden, they got him locked up for life. They said this man was involved in some foolish, stupid coup d'etat, and all of that kind of stuff. So this is what happens when you speak up, you go back home to visit, you get locked up. My friend Cashbox, who's based in London, Alfred, his mother passed 4 years ago coming. This man has not been able to even go back home to see his mother's grave. And you have members within the opposition that are telling him that, oh, no, you're not going to come here to see your mother's grave. These are opposition figures that should actually protect him and create a safe passage for him to go back home and not be a political exilee just because he's speaking up for democratic principles. They are mocking him within the opposition. Listen to me. Within the opposition, they are mocking him. That tells you that we have a state capture. Because when you have a segment of the opposition that have come together and they are now working with the government to ensure that they ostracize voices like ourselves who are just speaking up to protect democracy. No. So there's no space. There's no safe space anymore in Sierra Leone. And this is why the people came out and voted in June 24, 2023, and the elections were stolen. And we don't have a result. Unfortunately, we don't have a result. But rather fortunately, the opposition, the APC party, even though it's defragmented, the whole executive is in bed with the illegitimate government of Julius Maada Bio right now. But the only person that stands out is the flag bearer at the time, who is still, technically he's not the leader, but he's the leader of the APC. But he's the flag bearer who contended the election. Dr. Sabura Kamara, that's him who you see on the screen here. So I'm about to play a small snippet, how far we've come, that led to a tripartite, that we shouldn't have had a tripartite. And the tripartite was, a part of 4 proposals or strategies that they implemented to bring electoral justice, because it was a unity agreement that was signed, and you had the tripartite as one of those segments within the unity agreement that was signed. And the tripartite was supposed to investigate the outcomes of the elections and make proposals. And they had what is called divergent and convergent. So convergent proposals were 80 that everybody agreed on. SLPP, the illegal government, agreed on, and the APC agreed on, and the international community that was part of the whole tripartite, they agreed on those. So it's 80 recommendations, 80 recommendations. And then you have, the divergent, which is the most important to all of us, not excluding the fact that we want political prisoners to be released, but the divergent was the fact that we are calling for rerun elections. Because, guys, it's very clear. If you go into an elections and the ECSL, the governing, officials that should actually conduct the elections don't have a result for that elections, that means it is null and void, right? So we are calling for rerun elections, basically. And we've seen that what has actually happened at this point. We have, a segment of the opposition that have sold out, and they've come out telling us it's done and dusted. Even the PRO of the APC party came out and said it makes no sense for us to ask for rerun elections. And even the American ambassador at a point, Brian Hunt, to Sierra Leone, the American ambassador said it makes no sense. It's an unrealistic expectation for us to ask for rerun elections. But we know that we don't have the results of the elections, and we're asking for rerun elections. And these guys are saying that, it makes no sense, or it's unreasonable. It's done and dusted. Can you imagine? Is that democracy? So that is the question that we're posing to the international partners. And that's the question we're posing to the international community. The United States of America, particularly. We're talking about the MCC and all of that. And we are sort of satisfied with the MCC, because I can speak on the MCC in itself and how we should not even be talking about the MCC, because we don't need MCC money because we have enough resources in Sierra Leone. But at least the MCC is there. It's like the principal of the school, making sure that every African country, that participates in the MCC program, they're doing the right thing by their people. It's a shame in Africa that we have to have our leaders should be looked at as kindergartens. They should be, supervised on how they take care of their people. It's in itself, it's a shame. It's pathetic. But but these are the things we've been talking about. So we saw the tripartite committee. They came out and have this divergent, like I was saying, and we're asking for a rerun. And Dr. Samara Kamara has stood his ground since then, after the tripartite committee came with the report in July this year. He stood his ground in a speech. That's what you're seeing. So let me play a snippet of that. But that's where we come. We come a long way. We shouldn't have had a tripartite committee, because we should have had a peaceful elections, and everybody should have gone about their business. And the winner of the elections was announced, and Sierra Leone should be moving forward, right, with developmental strides. We have so many issues and problems to deal with, but we're in this stalemate today where nothing is moving, basically, in the country. Why? Because you have a few selfish people that just think that power, is theirs, and the people's stake or the people's say does not matter. If I'm a president of any nation, what I want to see, first of all, is 100% voter turnout. Is that possible? No. But if I can have 70 to 80%, that is what I want. And not only that, but I want the people's voices to speak for themselves. When people go to vote, it is a sacred moment. It is a very personal moment. Let that be heard. Let their voice be heard. If I'm a president of any country, that is what I want. I don't care. It's not about winning. That's not a good trait for a leader. Leader, you're just not looking at winning. You just don't want, you don't have to do everything under the moon and the sun to win. Let the people speak for themselves. Let your work, let what you've done be the reason the people are going to vote you in or out of office. And let the people's will be heard. Let their voice be heard. And that is what we're talking about in Sierra Leone today. But fast forward, shame on us for having a tripartite. But fast forward, we have the leader of the APC who still holds his position that it's not yet over. And listen to this. Let's listen to this little snippet here.
In spite of these troubles, it is my firm conviction that our country must now depart from the old normal, which is the business as usual style of politics.
And he's going to talk about that, but I just want you to understand, that's why I'm playing it. The old archaic way of doing things. Those days are over, and that's what Dr. Samora Kamara is talking about. So listen.
There can be no progress, no democracy, no development where the people are ignored and deprived of their right to choose. This is the desired politics for the people. In light of what we see happening in many parts of the world, it will be insane for us, political leaders, civil society, and international partners to disregard the people's demand for electoral justice in Sierra Leone. The sword that was opened in June 23 cannot be healed unless it is cleaned. What's happened in Sierra Leone in June 2023 is a precedent, a very bad precedent, which, if not corrected, will be a template for future political parties to copy. In this regard, those who think that the same ECSL that conducted the disastrous 2023 elections will miraculously change and conduct a clean, credible, and transparent elections in 2028 are certainly dreaming.
That is what we're dealing with, guys. So he has stood his ground. He is the only man in the APC today who has a very clear and definitive statement about the outcomes of the election. The rest of the executive is sold out. So the people are clinging onto this man, Dr. Samora Kamara, because they know he's the only hope that they have for democracy. Democracy is dying in Sierra Leone. And we all know that Sierra Leone has a very brutal past. We had the brutal rebel war in 1991. A lot of people lost their lives. Why did these guys go to the bush? Why did they take up arms against the state? They said they were tired of the one-party state system that we had at the time. They said there was oppression and suppression. They said they were tired of the human rights abuses. They said they were tired of the exponential rise in the prices of goods and services across the country. They said the youth did not have a job. They went and took up arms against the state because they said, the healthcare system was not where it should be. They said the educational system was not where it should be. They took up arms against the state. In 1991, we had a brutal rebel war. Ali Kaba went to the bush. Fodi Sanko took over later on. And today, what we have is worse than what happened between 1978 up till. And the sad part is the fact that the man who's the illegal president of Sierra Leone today was in the middle of all of this. His own sister was married to the rebel leader. His brother, who was supplying arms and ammunition to the military, was also supplying arms and ammunition to the rebels back in the 90s. Julius Matabia. This man, after he left from the military coup that he was in between 1992 and 1996, he served for a 3-month term as the head of state when he overthrew his other Strasser, who was the original pioneer of the NPRC. When he overthrew him, he stayed in power for 3 months until we had the elections, which he did not want, reluctantly, because he was forced to. This man has been in the thick of it. After he left in 1996, he disappeared. We saw him in London in buses with old battered shoes, and it did not work for 22 years. And he came back in Sierra Leone. How he became a president up to this day, we're still questioning that. But he was made a president 22 years. No institutionalization. Did not work. Has no experience. Has no administrative experience. I'm telling you. And he came and he has sharply divided the country today. His wife, very flamboyant, up and down, traveling the world, wearing some of the most expensive watches, flying private jets, whilst the people continue to suffer. But that is Sierra Leone for us. That is the state of our democracy. But thank God for Dr. Samora Kamara. I'm not going to make this live a long one. I want to thank you all for joining me and watching. But I just want the international world to understand where Sierra Leone is. Our democracy is dying and it should be salvaged. It should be saved. Right now, what we are asking for, Sierra Leoneans, is a rerun of the elections in the absence of the results of the June 24, 2023 elections. That is what Sierra Leoneans are asking for, and we are not going to let that go until the voice and the votes of the people counts. Because that is what democracy is. It is the power of the people, for the people, and by the people. And the Constitution of Sierra Leone states clearly, Section 5, subsection 2, all the way it says, through this Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people. And the government derives its legitimacy, its authority, and its power from the people. And therefore, the people have made their voices heard. We want to rerun elections. We're not going to settle for nothing less. They can come with 10,000 recommendations. We don't give a crap about all the recommendations that they want to bring. The recommendation that we care about is one, a rerun elections, because it is absolutely clear that there is no elections. There is no results from the elections of the June 24, 2023. So in itself, it is null and void. Therefore, we want a fresh election. That is the position of Sierra Leoneans, and that is the position of the people of Sierra Leone, and we shall not rest until we get that. Like I said, this is a series that I'm going to continue. If I could, I'm going to try. Sometimes I might not come live because of the time constraint. I might just record the videos and share, but if I have a chance to do a live, I would. But I just want to share this with the international community, and I want you all to understand this. If you believe in democracy, this is it. Because if the international community, if you guys allow democracy to die in Sierra Leone, the only other option people would have is a rebellion. And that is not good. So if you care, if America cares about democracy, it's time we call for that rerun elections. I'll leave it here, guys. Bye-bye, everybody.